Hi, this is Linda
And this is Joe.
with Generation to Generation.
Well, this week we're going to discuss parenting. We're going to continue the parenting discussion. But today it is specifically called powerful parenting, right? Is that right?
Sure.
All right. So, so we have our good friends again with us, Pastor Kathy and Pastor James.
Hello, people.
Welcome, everybody. So, powerful parenting. Wow. Doesn't have anything to do with physical strength, does it?
Not a lot.
No?
Not a lot.
Not a lot?
Not a lot. So last time we were together, as we talked about this, we talked about the purpose, the real reason why parents exist. And, we define like, first of all, we're protectors. We're protectors
And nurturers.
and nurturers, and then we're teachers.
Mhm.
So we're protectors, we nurture, and we teach. And we have to be good at protecting them from things that are going to get them in trouble. Get our kids will get in trouble. Things that won't do them good, that will hinder them or hold them back from achieving, their purpose or their potential in life. And then we have to be teachers of how to function in the world, how to function in our society. And so that's basically fundamentally what parenting is about.
Mhm.
It is the,
Preparing them to live a successful life.
mhm,
Preparing them for the world, because the world is going to change from the time that they're children, babies, give the world 20 years, and it's accelerating very quickly. So we want to make sure that our children are not going to just be able to survive in the world, but we want them to thrive. We want them to be successful in whatever they choose to do, whatever line of work they choose, whatever they choose, or whoever they choose as a partner or as a spouse, and their friends as well, the type of lifestyle they want to live, the type of income they want, and what they, because if we don't prepare them to have goals, then they'll just sit around waiting for things to happen. And that's not really doing our kids justice, because we do them a disservice if we don't really prepare them for life. Because life, it comes with its challenges, but as parents, it's our job to be there so that our children want to hear us. And then as they grow and develop and mature, we also want to be the type of parent that they'll want to come back to and ask, so mom or dad, what do you think? What are your thoughts on this job? Or, I want to go to college. What do you think about this college? Because they may not know everything. They may just have friends that are going to a particular college and they want to go there because of their friends. Yeah, but what about the academics of the college? That's what's important, So it's important as parents to make sure that, first of all, that we know what parenting is. And parenting is they say it's the most wonderful job you'll have, but the most challenging. It's so rewarding, but then at the same time, it can be so frustrating, because they will come to a point where they will have their own minds, their own ideas about life. And it might not line up with what we want for them.
it is the most important. Well, at least I'll say this is one of the most important jobs that we have also, as parenting. So the society is generally, it's a lot different now than when we grew up. And so the idea is to teach them how to survive in the society that they're going to live in. And
I was going to say, even our generation was different from your generation, and their generation is going to be different from your generation. So each generation will hopefully grow wiser based on what the past generation gave them and taught them.
So today we have well, we're trying to lose it, but we have a democratic society, and that means that we got to learn how to get along. We're all free to have our own opinions, and so we have to learn. Teach them how to get along with people that don't think like they think, don't believe what they believe. How do we get along with people?
Or don't look like they
Or
look.
don't look like they look. Our society today is really diverse. This is a lot of different ethnicities and all kinds of things that are different people with different backgrounds, come from different places. We're in a melting pot here, and then on top of that is it's very technological. It's a high tech society. Today's language is so different from the language we grew up with. You know, we came up where you yelled across the field, you know, hey, it's dinner time. A lot of us are still yelling today from that environment. You know, now
And it's
people
not
just,
even dinner
it's
time.
not even dinner. Now
Just
people
yelling.
just text you.
That's right.
You know, so it's a different environment where our kids are going to grow up in, and they got to learn the language. They got to learn how to use the technology. At the same time, technology can be quite dangerous because it can expose them at an age when they're not ready to handle different things. You know, and so that is very challenging for parents today.
There were some things, I would say back in our day, our parents would tell us to stay away from, you know, be cautious of or be mindful of. There were some kids that my mom wasn't real happy if we played with them. But as kids, you don't, because parents don't always say why, they just tell you. Back then, they just said, don't. They just said, don't. So you trusted them to know what they were talking about, but then as you got older, you wanted to know why. You know, give me a reason. And I grew up in the era where you didn't have to have a reason. If mom said it or dad said it, you did it. No questions asked.
If you got bold enough to ask why, they tell you, because I said so.
Or as my mother would say, because I'm the mama, you know. So. But it's important that we keep the lines of communication open, because as our children grow and develop and mature, they're going to start formulating their own thoughts. And with those thoughts, they might not be in line with what you think, but if we have influence with our children, because they know that we're not there just to be the boss of them, but that we really love them, we want to provide for them, take care of them, and we want life to be good for them, they're more apt to hear us. So having that relationship at an early age, because at the earliest stages, our children need us for everything. You know, if they want to be fed, we got to feed them. If they need to be clean, we're going to clean them. If they're cold, if they're hot or whatever, when they're very young, we provide all of that. Then they get to an age where they start learning how to do things on their own, and they will experiment, and they will take chances, and they will have behavior that's a little risky because they don't know the dangers of the other side of that behavior. So as parents, it's always important to explain why, you know, because that's dangerous. That could really hurt you. That could cause you to lose a limb, you know, but kids are still going to do what they're going to do. So if we have the kind of relationship where they want to hear us, That's the key right there. They want to hear what we have to say. Then we have a greater chance of being a positive influence in their lives.
I think it's also quite important, and it is the parents' responsibility to create the environment. And so we, before us, our parents experienced an environment that came from probably the slave environment. They
There
came,
were a couple of
yeah,
generations.
and that was kind of prevalent during that day. In a slavery kind of environment, it was fearful.
Mm.
You know, you had to learn how to live in that environment, and what the taskmaster wanted you to be is afraid of them.
Mhm.
They wanted you to be afraid, and they didn't want you to think that what you thought mattered.
In fact, you weren't even encouraged to think. You were just taught to obey, to be
Yes.
obedient and subservient.
And so what they drew from you and demanded from you is blind obedience.
Mhm.
And quite often, not too far removed from there, the parenting style of some of us experienced a dictatorship.
Mhm.
And we grew up and we learned how to survive in a dictatorship. And what it required was fear, being afraid of our parents. Boy, I brought you into this world, I'll take you out.
What kind of talk is that?
Fear.
That's not love language.
No, fear. Blind obedience. Don't ask me why, just because I told you to do it. Go in there and do what I told you to do.
Mhm.
Blind obedience.
Mhm.
Okay. Don't ask no question. Just do what I say do. Okay. And then that kind of environment requires a person to have low self-esteem or low self-worth. You can't adapt to that without lowering your self-worth.
Mhm. Mhm.
And so dictators demanded that you had blind obedience and no self-worth, no self-esteem. Okay. And quite often that is how some of us grew up. And the problem with growing up like that, too often we became dictators.
Mhm.
First of all, that's all we knew.
Mhm.
So we became dictators and we felt entitled to be a dictator to our children.
Mhm.
And you hear us saying things like, that's the way I came up, that's the way you're going to come up. That's what they did to me, that's what I'm going to do to you. That, in other words, I feel entitled to be a dictator because I had a dictator.
Yeah, imposing my thoughts on you
Mhm.
without even considering that you have a mind of your own.
Mhm. And so you can see how that's not going to work in our melting pot. That's just not going to work. When you produce kids that end up like that, first of all, they're probably not going to be very good at jobs because they have a low self-worth of themselves. So they're not going to be very competitive.
They don't think they measure up.
Yeah, they don't think they measure up. They become easy to be used, manipulated, that
Mhm.
kind of thing. And that creates a whole bunch of frustration on the inside that ends up exploding. And then they end up in jail and that kind of thing. But
Mhm.
that kind of environment is not good for a child to become an adult in, the dictatorship.
It's not conducive for growing and growing into a person that's full of confidence.
Mhm.
And we want our children to have confidence. And, you know, for years, we didn't learn or read or know or understand what parenting actually looked like. We had a baby, take care of the baby, feed the baby, clean the baby, make sure the baby goes to school. And as the baby goes to school, you just want that baby to grow up. But now the environment is college education, because we want them to be competitive in the world, because the world is competitive right now, very competitive. And not just so much in academics, but people are thinking outside the box. People are creating their own jobs. You know, people are doing things, especially now with technology, people are creating there's a vacuum for things that people don't want to do anymore, but they'll pay to have you do it. Such as, I think, Joe, you talk about I think there was something that you were ordering online for food that was already prepared. Yeah. People are doing that now. People are, there's imperfect foods, foods that are, you know, the tomatoes don't look beautiful. They've got a couple of knots on them or what have you, but they're still good. People are now selling a box of what they call imperfect food that the stores, the major grocery chains don't want, but they're still good. You know, the nutritional value is still there. So people are going way outside of the norm and doing things that we never would have thought of before. And technology has brought that convenience to us. If you don't feel like cooking, you don't have to cook. If you don't feel like shopping, they'll shop for you and bring it to your door. You know, if you don't have to go to the gym anymore. You can exercise on from your computer because they have people that are doing it on the computer. So the world has changed. We want our children to change with it.
You gotta learn how to live in it. You gotta learn how to live in the world.
But at the same time, also be cautious because there's a lot of scary things out there as well. A lot of good stuff. There's also a lot of bad stuff.
Then there's this other environment. So that's one environment. There's another environment called I don't care what you say. Don't tell me what to do. The law doesn't apply to me. I don't care what nobody says. Don't tell me what to do. And quite often kids that grow up in that kind of environment where they had parents that felt like that, no one could tell them nothing. No one could tell them what to do. No one could give them instruction. It's almost as if you live in a lawless. Remember back in Wyatt Earp days, you know, the best shooter, you know,
Was the winner.
You know, that kind of thing. There was no, we agree on the law, nothing like that. It was just your will. If you were good enough, then your will was the one that got done. In the Bible, it talks about everybody does what was right in their own eyes. Okay, and so it's kind of a lawless society.
I was just going to say, in the mid 60s to the 70s, there was the hippie movement, and that was a protest because of the style of parenting that their parents had. Their parents, you know, had come out of the war, and you know, the parents after that were, you know, just kind of rigid, and so there was this group that just said, hey, I don't like the way you're doing things. I'm going to protest. I'm going to take off my top and expose myself if that's what I want to do. They had these free for all, concerts where, you know, it was all about love. And then we ended up with AIDS. And so there is a way in which to teach our children how to be responsible, because we're not always going to be there. We're not always going to be around them when they have to make those choices. And there are some choices that can dictate their life, you know, because of the choices that they make. Bottom line, we want to be the type of parent where our child will at least consider what we have to say. Not because we're holding, you know, a belt over them or a rod over them, but because they know that we love them. And we're not out to hurt them, but we're out to be that parent that will be a protector, even when they're in that silly stage where, you know, I'm just going to do it, you know? because you get there and you decide, I'm just gonna rebel and I'm gonna do what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna get a fast car. I'm gonna get a Mustang. I'm gonna get a Corvette. I'm gonna get a Corvair. What were some of those other cars? Firebird.
Oh, yeah. Camaro,
Yeah, yeah.
Oh, Trans Am.
Trans Am. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. Road Runner. Remember the Road Runner? Beep beep.
So the second one is the parent let the child do whatever they want. Is that what you're saying?
No, it's
Oh.
teaching the child that the strong will rules the day. It's if you disagree with me, let's fight. If I win, then I win. Everything I want because I'm the strong one.
Is that the same as, I know sometimes you go in a store and you see a child fall on the floor and cry and do that circle thing?
The circle thing.
Yeah.
We've seen it. We've seen it.
Yep, just go
Is
right.
that the same thing? They know if they do that, embarrass their parents, or you know what I mean, that they would give in, and so that's that style. Okay.
Mhm.
And there's some parents that haven't learned when a child does that, don't go into a long speech. Just walk away.
Pick them up, take them
Pick
in the
'em up,
car.
yeah.
Take 'em in the car.
We're not going to shop today.
Mhm.
And I promise. No,
Oh, no.
stick to your guns and take them home. And the next time you want to go to the store and they want to go with you, and you as a parent, you have to say, oh no, because the last time I took you to the store, you fell out because you didn't get the cookies or the sucker or whatever that was that you wanted. So you have to learn that there are consequences. Kids have to learn. Adults have to learn. There are consequences to the decisions that we make.
So a lawless society or a lawless environment doesn't believe that there's consequences.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Okay, so they, for example, if there's a father who does not want to go along with the rules, don't tell me what to do, and they're in this lawness, I can do what I want and without consequence. And as long as I'm the strong man, then I rule. And they somehow inject that message into their child.
Mm.
The child what does the child learn? The child grows up in that kind of environment. They have to have a strong will. First of all, they have to have a strong will. In other words, I don't want to hear nothing. I just do what I wanted. This is negative, but it's strong. It's a strong negative will. I just do. I don't care.
Be defiant.
I'm defiant. And if you challenge me, I'll beat you down. Strong will. Lawless. Okay, lawless. I ain't going to jail. Nothing's going to happen to me. The other thing is that they have to have a propensity toward violence.
Mm.
And they learn that from maybe their parents. They have I'm looking to prove who I am.
Mm-hmm.
I'm looking to prove that I'm better, or that my will
I'm
is
the big
better.
dog.
I'm the big dog. They're looking for situations to prove that. And then they have to become, that type of person is self-centered. They don't care about nobody else. Okay, and then they become insensitive. Not only do they think about them, they're insensitive to others.
Mm-hmm.
Now, if you bring a child up in that kind of environment and they grow up to be like that, you can see how that's not going to work in this melting pot. First of all, in our society, the realistic society that we live in, we have laws.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, people break them all the time. We have laws. We have speed limits. We have laws about red lights and green lights. And then we have laws about not passing on the wrong side of a person, jumping in front of them. We have laws about this stuff. But a lawless person doesn't believe that the law is for them.
Mm.
In fact, they get mad at you because you're following the law.
Yeah, yeah.
Try driving on the freeway at the speed limit.
Whew.
Go, go.
They run up on you, honking at you. You look at your speed on, you're driving the speed limit. They go around you, looking at you,
Yeah.
calling.
They might be calling you a name under their breath.
It's how we get these confrontations on the freeway, these road rage, and this kind of stuff. It comes from people that have a propensity for lawlessness, a
Mhm.
lawless environment. So if you bring a child up to be like that, that's not going to work in this melting pot.
Mm-mm. Mm-mm.
You know,
Somebody's gonna get hurt.
yeah. So parent has to be careful about this. What was you gonna say, Joe?
Well, I was going to say, and sometimes the laws and stuff get misinterpreted, or people don't really know. They don't know things like because they pass a lane on the freeway, like you was talking about. That what is that? The number 4 lane? Is the fastest lane the number 1 lane?
Think so. It's from left to right. I think it is.
Is it from left to right? So when you get on the off,
1, 2, 3.
okay. So the 4th lane is the slowest lane. That's the one that's closest to the on ramps and off ramps.
Mhm.
Yeah, that's the slowest lane.
That's the 4th lane,
Mm-hmm.
right? Or if you have a 4-lane highway.
Mm-hmm.
But that first lane, actually, that's the lane that no one's supposed to be in, because that lane is supposed to be your passing lane, right? But people camp out that lane, and they think, you know what I mean? They think that they can camp out there and somebody will pull up on them. So that lane is supposed to be always empty, really. You use that lane to pass the car in the 3rd lane, and you get back in the 3rd lane.
Mm-hmm.
So, like you said, they misinterpret the law too.
Mm-hmm.
They don't know what it really means, and then they cause all these problems, like you're saying, road rage and all that. Turns out they didn't. Well, I don't know where I was going with that. You can edit that out.
They didn't read the book.
Oh, you know.
Somebody gave them the answers. They didn't read. They didn't read and prepare for their driver's license.
I remember where I was going with that. 44 minutes.
Yeah, so that's something that's really important for the parent to be aware of. What type of environment are we creating for our children?
Mhm.
You know, are we creating a dictatorship where they grow up to become dictators? Or are we creating lawlessness? Because we're setting an example. So they grow up to become lawless. Can you imagine your little girl connecting to a guy who is a lawless person?
Mhm.
In his mind, he's lawless.
Mhm.
That's going to create some real problems for her.
Yeah.
You know, or she connects to a dictator. That's going to really create some problems. You know, so
And if she doesn't have good self-esteem, she will just be happy that somebody likes her, that somebody wants to be with her. And that happens quite often. A lot of women get into dictator relationships. They get into abusive relationships because finally someone is paying attention to them. And that's a whole nother subject.
So
But, yeah.
it becomes a real trap for a young girl or even a young guy, for that's concerned, to grow up in a dictatorship and connect to someone that grew up as in a lawless society, a lawless environment. Because lawless people are insensitive to you.
Mhm.
But people that come out of dictators have low self-esteem.
Mhm.
So you can see how that can be a real problem.
It can be a trap.
It can be a real trap. You know, then them two have kids. And what does that teach the child about the mother and the father?
All confused.
Yes. So it becomes very important for us to create the right kind of environment for our children to grow up so that they can survive in the society and thrive or be successful.
Mhm.
So in the society that we shoot for, we call it a democracy or a democratic society. Now the problem with a democratic society is there are a lot of things that we have to model We have to motivate and teach our children how to do. They have to be good at a lot of things to be successful and thriving in a democratic society. First of all, they have to develop courage, and they can't have courage in a dictatorship, and they can't have courage in a lawless society, especially if they get beat down. So they got to have you got to have courage to be competitive in a democratic society.
And you have to have courage to stand up for yourself.
Yeah. And that's something that parents teach. Courage.
And model.
Yeah. Courage is the ability to take a chance take a willing chance on something that you know, but you don't know it's going to work. There's risk to it. There's risk to it. And that is our society. You have to we take risks.
Risks. Okay. Risk.
Every day.
Kind of like the game of Monopoly. The game of Monopoly has its own set of rules, but every household has different rules. So you have to what's the word? You have to adapt.
Yeah.
Right? You have to adapt to that situation. So you're gonna go out in the world and you're gonna meet all kinds of people with all kinds of different beliefs, right?
Yep.
You run into that dictatorship and that lawless person and that mild-mannered person, and you don't have to really, the red light. It's going to change red, but the yellow light means speed up. Well, that's not what the yellow light means. The yellow light means slow down because I'm about to
Pull back. Pull back.
But you can go because it's a long yellow light. You know what I mean? So yeah, it's major adaptation.
Yeah, I've had people behind me. I'm slowing down because the light's yellow. They pull in the next lane and go around me and run the light.
Yeah,
I'm not going to wait.
it changed. It means hurry up. The light is supposed to change red. That's but that's not what the law. That's not what the law says. They wrote it for you, and they had something else in mind.
Yeah.
So all these different rules and unwritten rules, and you run into all these people, and so you just gotta know who yourself is. You gotta have the courage. You gotta believe in yourself, right? You gotta this is what I believe in. No, don't worry about the person cutting in front of me. I don't need to honk the horn, but they reach over and honk it for you.
Somebody does that?
Yeah, I had people in the car that did that. It's like,
boy.
So you got a lot of things that you have to adapt to.
Yeah. I actually have people in my family that will give people the look. I'm like, keep your eyes on the prize.
Yeah.
And let's just get to where we have to go. Because it's different. It is different now. People are packing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we just don't need to create chaos with our behavior. Just, I'm trying to get to where I'm going, and I'm not, hey, this is me.
And you think you have peer pressure. You think there's peer pressure in high school. There's even more peer pressure when you become adults. Because they want you to behave like they think you should behave, because that's how they will behave. Right. So yeah, yeah.
So what happens if you cut your eyes because somebody did something crazy at a lawless person?
Yeah.
They might pull out a piece.
How we live in our society now requires a lot of skill, a lot of self-control, and is stuff that's developed that we learn from our parents. We learn how to model that, and we learn how to develop it. Another thing that we need in a democratic society is responsibility. We learn how to become responsible. The beginning of responsibility is understanding consequences.
Yeah.
if I do this, this is gonna happen.
Yeah.
But then-
Lawless people don't understand that.
Yeah, because they want to take a chance, because they might say it might not happen. But who wants to take that chance?
There's a lot of, but it didn't. You know, that kind of talk, but it didn't.
Yeah.
Well, it do that, but it didn't.
Mhm.
Like,
Or it might not. Ooh.
Yeah. So that the way it is our responsibility as parents to really bring our kids up so they can actually be healthy in the world in which they're going to live in.
now, one key thing that when it comes to parenting, one key thing or one key word is patience. Because when you're teaching somebody something, it takes you have to be willing to, okay, this might not be picked up right away. I might have to teach this over some period of time. And a lot of people are not patient.
Right.
Like, because you're supposed to be getting this. How come I'm not making sense to you? You know, you're supposed to, I got other things to do. So I'm trying to teach you something. You got to hurry and get that right there. I got to do, you know, being a parent, you got to take your time and teach. And you might be teaching something
For a while.
for a while, right? And you got to be in that mindset. And I don't think we're there.
No,
You know, I don't think I think very few people are there. You know,
Microwave society,
Yeah. Hurry up.
get it done.
You know, it should have been done yesterday. All that kind of stuff.
you should know this by now.
Yeah, all of that.
Yeah, it's woo.
And the thing is, everyone's brain processes differently because we all have two brains in us. We have our mother's brain, we have our father's brain. And that is a combination of two ways of seeing and two ways of doing things. So just because I know it doesn't mean that you're not going to easily know it as quickly as I do, because I've lived it for a while. So we have to use patience with our kids. One of the things that happens is that parents lose patience because they've got so much going on. You know, I've got my job, I've got the kids, I've got the laundry, I've got grocery shopping, I have to take the clothes to the cleaners or iron the clothes or whatever that is. The dad is doing his job might be a job of labor, you know, physical labor. So when he comes home, he's exhausted. But then when mom gets home, she's exhausted too, because maybe she's working outside the home. But then when she comes in, so having the cooperation of everyone in the family, everybody doing their part, everyone being responsible for something. Like if the mom goes in the kitchen, at least somebody's going to wash those dishes. If she cooks it, somebody's going to clean up. Somebody's going to set the table. So working together as a unit is key. And it's important to teach our children to learn how to cooperate with others, because some people may not know how to do something as well as you do. That's where we teach. That's where we model. And it's important to always give people a pass, because sometimes people just won't know. They may not have been taught. And just because I know it and it's common knowledge in my family doesn't mean it's common knowledge in your family. Like manners. Some people don't have manners. And you're wondering why.
Lasers?
You know, or common sense. And you're wondering why. They didn't come out of your household. They came out of another household. So this is the way we did it at our house. This is not your house. This is my house. This is my house. So this is how we do things in my house. But sometimes people don't get that. So it's
decency.
Let's not go there. Let's not go there. Please, let's not go there. That's a broadcast. No.
Are we off the subject?
No. I remember, like, this is one thing, this is actually pretty recent too. Like, because when I grew up, and I was kind of in charge of washing the dishes, but you always wash the dishes before you went to bed,
Mhm.
right? That's how I was. So now I was trying to do the same thing for this family, like wash the dishes at night. But they rarely got done at night. They rarely got done the next morning. So I had to learn how to switch gears, right? Because, you know, at least they got done. They just didn't get done in the night. I would like for them to be done at night, but I had to kind of, I guess, let go. So because the person that's doing the dishes, you know, they got a lot of things going on too. And like you said, times are different. You know, we're in COVID situation. Now there's online classes and all different kinds of things. So I kind of backpedal a little bit because at least they got done. I like them to be done at night, but at least they get done in the next they get done 8 hours from when I want them to be done. So you just got to make you know what I mean? It's just like you make concessions and you know, you be graceful and stuff. So, and I think what happens is it doesn't put that much pressure.
Yeah.
You kinda,
And Joe, a greater lesson is learned, and that is I don't have to be rigid enough to break about everything. Our children need to know that. Otherwise, they become rigid. You know, and then if they're connected to somebody that just won't, they don't know how to not break. you know, and then they can hurt themselves or somebody else behind that. So it's a greater lesson to learn how to cooperate with a person, see their limits and work with them rather than insist on them being at our standard.
Yeah, this is how I did it. I mean, because that was my mindset. You know, I did it.
Yeah.
You know, but I was a different kind of young person.
Sure.
You know what I mean? Than my child. My child was not the same kind of young person that I was.
Yeah.
So
yes, exactly.
Because they're a whole different person.
Whole different person, whole different time. When I was a young person, it was mid 1980s.
Got you.
Now they're a young person in 2020. Oh, that's a different. How many years is that? 30? Yeah.
Yeah. So a lot of things have changed. A lot of things have happened, and you know, so those are the kinds of things that parents actually have to become aware of. They actually need to talk these kinds of things out with themselves. What kind of family are we going to be?
Right.
Yeah.
And this is where family meetings come into play, because as the family evolves, the children get older. As we get older, what does this family look like? What do we want the family to look like? What are the responsibilities? And everyone do their part, because we're working together as a unit, a family unit. And when the it's like a well-oiled machine. When everything is working right, things get done. Things get done. And we want those things to get done, but we're not going to be so lax that we'll just we don't need to wash the dishes. You know, let them sit in there for 2 days. I don't think so.
So, I know one thing you were saying, each of us have our parts, you know, and to teach them. But I think also we need to take the time on opportunities we don't even realize is time. You know, like when we are at a restaurant eating, to talk instead of looking at the phone. You know, spending that time with them, even looking at other people and talking about what they see and recognize. I remember with Darius, our oldest, I taught him how to tell time on a clock. You know, everybody has those little straws you always bend up. We tore the little pieces and made a clock and got 2 straws, and we learned. I set it, and he'll say what time it is. And we master it just over eating dinner, you know, waiting for our food to come, you know, count by 5s and the whole process is just using the time you do have. So we have to sometimes, yeah, we do feel rushed. And I can just imagine single moms and stuff, but use the opportunity instead of, oh, our food is taking too long or what's going on. Use that time.
Always a teaching moment.
Yeah, I was just about to say that. Teachable moments. Look for those
Yeah,
opportunities.
that's good. Yeah,
Mhm.
that's real good. Yeah, yeah, that's good.
And have conversations
Mhm.
with
Right.
your children. Because sometimes kids can feel like the only time my parents talk to me is when I've done something wrong. And that doesn't feel good. We should always find ways to encourage them and compliment them, tell them what a great job they've done, and let them know that we're glad to be their parent. I am so proud to be your mom. I am so proud to be your dad. You know, kids need that encouragement, and they need that to fuel them to compete in a democratic society. They need to feel so good about themselves that it doesn't matter if somebody has more education than they do. They might have more education, but I have more smarts. Because there's a lot of people that have education. That's all they have.
And be ready for why and be real with it. Because my dad used to do that to me all the time. You know, Mija, you're so beautiful, you're so special. And I just sucked it in, you know? But when I did it with my kids, they go, why? And I was like, I wasn't ready the first time. I wasn't ready because it's like, I never asked why.
That was just what he did.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's like, okay, so I told them, but then it made me think, why do I feel that way? You know what I mean? Because they automatically think, Mom, you're supposed to. I'm like, no, it's more than that,
Mhm.
you know? So then I had to say why, I had to explain why. But it was weird because my generation, for me, I didn't ask why, I just soak it in, like, yep, I am
Mhm.
special and beautiful and all that. But my boys was like, well, why? You know what I mean? Like they needed that more.
Mhm.
So it's like we can use some of the skills of our parents, but still make it fit our child. Like they might ask why the next generation wants more information. Why?
Mhm.
You know?
Yes, more, yeah, and we're not talking about the 2-year-old that's, why,
Yeah, that's their language.
Yeah, that's another, we're not talking about that stage.
Right.
Mhm.
So,
In fact,
so we talked about, the first parenting style was dictatorship parenting,
Mhm.
or the second one was lawlessness parenting.
Mhm.
And what was the title for the third one?
Just dictator society. So
No,
Oh, democratic society.
democratic
Mhm.
society,
Right,
or
parenting.
you want to call it parenting within freedom within limits.
Freedom
We'll
within
get into that the next time. So how do you create a democratic society for your child to grow up? So there's freedom, but it's within limits,
Mhm.
so that the child gets to learn. I have freedom. In other words, I can make choices. I get to make choices, but there's consequences to the choice.
Mhm.
Limits.
Mhm.
Mhm.
Okay.
Because when they don't live with the consequences, then they won't learn right from wrong. And we're not really preparing them for life, because life comes with a lot of choices.
Mhm.
And the earlier we teach them, the easier it is for them to stop and think before they make that choice.
Mhm.
As easy as, do you want apple juice or orange juice for breakfast? They say, oh, apple juice. And so you get them the apple juice and they say, no, I really want orange juice. You said apple juice, so here's your apple juice. But I really want orange juice. Next time they'll think before they say what they
Mhm.
really want.
Mhm. So they get to make the choice.
Cognitively, yeah,
Mhm.
cognitively, you're allowing them to start using their brain cells to work in their favor,
Mhm.
so that when they have to, as they get older and they get at an age where a child, some kids say, well, let's go in the bathroom and smoke some weed. Your child can decide, I don't think I want those consequences. They have to be brave enough to say no. And
That's
that
gonna require
comes,
courage.
yeah,
Mhm.
and that comes with the courage to say no, and the courage to make good choices based on what they want, not what somebody else dictates.
Mhm.
And I think too is one thing you gotta be careful too, because when you said consequences, we gotta be careful as parents of what consequences that we take away or we don't allow them to experience.
Mm.
You know what I mean? I mean, you might don't want them to experience some consequences, but I think we can take away consequences that they're supposed to be feeling or supposed to experience.
Mhm.
That's something else too they got to keep in mind.
Yeah, part of protection and protecting is knowing what they can handle and what they can't handle.
Yeah.
But they're mature enough to decide on their own.
Yeah.
What's going to help them or what's going to hurt them? You know, so, yeah.
Because you don't want to take away a consequence, and when that child supposed to have learned something and they don't, then you just
Because you
missed
didn't
the boat.
allow them to.
Yeah, you done messed up entirely.
Yeah.
Right.
They're going to learn something one way or the other.
Yeah.
They're going to learn whether they're going to either learn that there's consequences to what they chose, or they're going to learn they can get away with what they chose.
Right.
Which is a form of manipulation, which is going to get them in trouble.
Yeah.
That's going to get them in trouble in the world. Manipulating people is going to get them in trouble.
Yeah. Sooner or
One day
later.
they'll get caught.
Wow. That's good.
All righty. All righty.
Good stuff. So this has been very top. This has been very interesting conversation about the different styles of parenting and how powerful and effective we can be as parents, and how ineffective we can be as parents. Right. That's a good thing too. So as always, we'd like to thank Pastor Kathy and Pastor James for walking us through these kind of concepts. And so if you're listening to this and you have questions, please leave them in the comments below. If you like the channel, please subscribe, subscribe. And if you want to actually ask us something, leave them in the comments and we'll read the comments. If you want to ask Pastor James and Pastor Flower or something, they'll give you, or why don't you tell them how they can reach you?
Well, you can always reach us. Always reach us on our website, which is Family Life Institute, IE.com, or you can reach us through our email. It's Pastor James at centerofchristministry.com.
All right. So with that, we will see you. Thank you for your time again, and we will see you next time.
Okay.
Yay! Yes.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Take care.
Oh, you
You
too.
do the same.